The moment you put your point of attention in that area is when things start to unfold for you and not a moment before. Your point of attention becomes your experience. Consciousness becomes form. You are as unlimited as that acorn. Any idea that you have, I don't care what idea that is, you have within you the intelligence to create the fulfillment of that idea. And if you're going to talk about percentages, why it can't happen, that's true too. And if you're going to talk about the recession and the depression, that's true too. And if you're going to argue for your limitations, they're yours. I'm telling you that there's something else to look at. And the idea that you have, whatever that idea is, the book that you wanted to write, the school that you wanted to go back to, and you don't know how you're going to do it with all the responsibilities and the details take care of themselves. That acorn doesn't worry about details. It just does its number. But you've got to plant it. You've got to plant the acorn before it can be fulfilled. You've got to be willing to plant those ideas that we're talking about. Plant the idea that you're unlimited. Plant the idea that you're a creative genius. Look at yourself differently than you've ever looked at yourself before. Don't listen to people who tell you that you can't do something. Who are they talking about anyway? They're talking about themselves. They're only seeing themselves when they talk about limitations. Be self-aware. And out of that self-awareness, all the genius and all the brilliance that you represent will unfold for you. And it will unfold for you automatically. And you only have to do one thing. That's be self-aware. That's to acknowledge who and what you really are. And as soon as you become aware that you're acknowledging something else, do something about it. You control your thoughts. You control your ideas. And it's what you are knowing about yourself that's going to create your experiences. Illness, sickness, discomfort is nothing more than an idea of limitation. That's all it is. That's all it is. Your discomfort in life, if that's what you're experiencing, is nothing more than a manifestation of some idea of limitation that you're living. You're living out of some idea of limitation. You're thinking less of yourself, and therefore you create less for yourself. Consciousness always becomes form. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to be talking about abundance and prosperity and some other good stuff. Okay, let's come back in 10 minutes. Different seats, please. Thank you. How are we doing? Any questions?
You have a question?
Yeah, please.
Putting your reality into action, how do you cause it to happen or control the time to make the event happen?
Okay.
When? How do you make it happen at the given time?
Okay. The moment you have a shift in consciousness, it's at that moment that there's a change. Now, even though you may not be able to see it in the physical shape or form, one of the lessons that we're talking about is don't be fooled by the outwardly appearances. Remember, if you're not familiar with the principle, there's one steel ball remaining, and just by looking at it, it would dictate that only one would respond, but there's a principle in motion. We're really talking about having the belief or the faith of the nature of who you are. And the moment you make a decision to make a shift for yourself, there is power in whatever decision you make. And what you must do is surrender to that idea and not be misled by any of the outwardly appearances. And know, when you go bowling, when you go and you roll that bowling ball, it's inevitable that the ball is going to be at the other end of the lane. It may go in the gutter or whatever, but you know, the chances are pretty good it's going to wind up at the other end of the lane, correct? There's a knowingness about that. As a matter of fact, there's such a knowingness that you could turn your back and walk the other way knowing that that ball is going to go down the other end of the alley. The same thing happens when you're working with this principle here. There's a knowingness that the moment I suspend and drop 3 steel balls, the moment I release these 3 steel balls, I don't even have to look at it. I know the principle is going to take over. The moment you make a decision that you're going to live out of your own self-awareness is the moment you stop worrying or wondering what's going to happen. You must be willing to surrender and to let go of those doubts and fears. And for some people, it requires more practice than others. Because what we're really talking about is a whole new way of life. It's giving up those ideas of limitation. It's giving up those doubts, those uncertainties. However, I will tell you this, that the more you surrender to this, the easier it becomes. The more you start to test and to experience your own power, the more you begin to understand you are the power. That no one out there is doing anything to you. No one out there is doing anything to you. But you're creating out there out of your own consciousness. So you know immediately. And you have to surrender to that knowingness. That's part of it. Any other questions or comments? Okay. When we talk about abundance and prosperity, talk about making money is nothing else but an effect. And the abundance and the prosperity in your life is nothing more than an extension of the abundance and the prosperity within your own consciousness. If you are identifying with lack or limitation, then because you always know whatever you need to know whenever you need to know it, you know exactly what to do in the most creative ways to experience lack and limitation. People who are born into poverty tend to stay there because that's the idea that they identify with. People who are born into great wealth, even though they may inherit it, they are raised and brought up with this intellect and this belief system of knowing things that other people don't know. People who are born into a struggle environment know exactly what to do to struggle. The reality is that you have a choice. And the choice is to experience whatever it is that you would like or desire to experience. However, you can only experience it coming from your own self-awareness. You can only experience it if you know that your experiences are an extension of you. How does one experience abundance and prosperity? Well, you've got to be abundant. You've got to be prosperous. Well, how can I be abundant and prosperous? That's what I want to be. Well, there are ways that you can experience being the action of abundance and prosperity. First of all, you spend yourself. People who come from abundance and prosperity spend. They spend money. There are things that you can spend. You can spend yourself. You can spend your encouragement of others. You can spend your enthusiasm for what it is you're doing. If you're not doing the best that you can do in whatever you're doing, then you're doing something else. And whatever else it is you are doing, then that consciousness becomes formed. Have you ever experienced doing something and saying, you know, I really don't want to do it, so I'm going to do a half-assed job? Anyone ever experienced that for truth? Okay. The point is that when you are the action of doing a half-assed job, then that idea becomes formed in your experiences. Remember, your consciousness is impersonal. It will create any idea that you are identifying with. And if you're identifying with an idea that it's okay for you to do something half-assed, or if it's okay for you to do something less than the best, then you are creating out of that idea of consciousness situations to complement the ideas you're living out of. You must look for the opportunity to do the very best that you can do. Now, that sounds like I'm preaching to you, but I'm really not preaching to you. Because what I'm saying is that unless you do the very best that you can do, you're only going to experience what you are doing. You never get what you want. You get what you are. You get the ideas that you're expressing. And if you're expressing half-assed, that's what you're going to get in kind. That's the way the universe works. That's the expression of your self-identity. So what you want to do is look for the opportunity to express the very best that you know what to do or how